The glass shattered before anyone could stop it. A sharp crash echoed through the marble halls of the Cole mansion as a plate flew off the dining table, splattering soup across the floor. The boy responsible, 7-year-old Liam Cole, stood trembling, his chest heaving, eyes blazing with fury. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He never did. "Liam!" his nanny gasped, stepping forward with a towel, but the child's expression hardened. He picked up another glass and hurled it against the wall. Shards glittered like falling stars before silence swallowed the room. From the staircase above, Ethan Cole, billionaire CEO of Coltech Industries, watched with tired eyes. He looked like a man who'd aged 20 years in 5. The boy's silence had become his private hell. Every therapist, every nanny, every medical specialist in the city had failed. Liam hadn't spoken a single word since the night his mother died. "Clean it up," Ethan said coldly, his voice echoing through the silence. "And get someone new. She's done." The nanny froze, tears welling in her eyes. "Please, sir, I said you're done." Ethan turned away before guilt could weaken his resolve. Another one gone. The 13th nanny this year. That night, the mansion sat quiet, a cold monument of wealth without warmth. Ethan's office light burned late as he drowned himself in contracts, pretending work could silence grief. Down the hall, Liam sat in his room, clutching a small music box. When he opened it, a faint lullaby played, the same tune his mother used to hum before bedtime. His lips trembled, but no words came. The next morning, a young woman stood outside the mansion gates, holding a faded employment flyer. Her name was Rosa Alvarez, 28, calm-eyed but nervous. She wasn't dressed like the others who'd come before her. No heels, no polished accent. Just a maid from a small-town agency desperate for work. The butler, Mr. Harris, frowned when he saw her resume. "We're not hiring nannies anymore. The position is cursed, apparently." "I'm not applying for nanny," Rosa said softly. "Just cleaning. I can start today." Harris sighed. "Fine, but don't get near the boy. Mr. Cole doesn't like anyone crossing that line." When she entered the mansion, Rosa felt the air heavy, almost suffocating. The kind of silence that carried grief like perfume. She moved quietly through the hallways, dusting, sweeping, keeping her head down. But while cleaning the living room, she found the remnants of broken glass on the floor. Tiny fingerprints marked the fragments. She paused, gathered them carefully, and whispered, "Poor child." Liam appeared at the doorway, watching her silently. Most people would have screamed or tried to engage. Rosa didn't. She just smiled gently, picked up the last shard, and said, "I'll clean this mess before someone gets hurt." The boy didn't move. He only tilted his head, studying her like a puzzle. When she hummed absent-mindedly, that same lullaby from the music box, Liam froze. His small hand trembled, eyes wide. Then he ran away. That night, Rosa asked the cook, "The boy? Does he ever smile?" "Not since his mother's accident," the cook replied. "He saw things no child should. Poor lad hasn't spoken since." Rosa nodded slowly, but there was something haunted in her eyes, as if the song had awakened something inside her, too. The next morning, as she was mopping near the garden, a voice snapped behind her. "You!" Ethan Cole stood tall, dressed in an immaculate suit. "Who gave you permission to sing around my son?"
Rosa straightened, startled.
"I didn't know he was there, sir. I was just... You're here to clean, not to play therapist. Do your job and stay invisible." His tone stung, but Rosa only bowed her head. "Yes, sir." Ethan turned to leave, but before he did, he noticed the look in her eyes. Not fear, not defiance, just compassion. Something he hadn't seen in years. It unsettled him. That evening, Liam hid behind the curtain while Rosa dusted the piano. When she began humming again, he crept closer. The tune wrapped around him like a forgotten memory. Without realizing it, he pressed one piano key, a single note echoing through the room. Rosa turned, startled, but said nothing. She smiled, played along, tapping another key. Then another. It became a quiet rhythm, their secret game. For the first time in years, laughter, small and fragile, flickered in the room. From the hallway, Ethan saw it happen. He didn't interrupt. For reasons he couldn't explain, he let it play out. That night, he stood outside his son's bedroom door, hearing faint humming, the lullaby again. Liam wasn't crying. He was calm. Ethan's chest tightened. The last time that song played in this house. His wife was alive. Later, as Rosa folded laundry in the servants' quarters, she pulled out a photo hidden in her pocket. A woman smiling beside a car, her arm around a small boy. The same song lyrics were scribbled on the back in faded ink. She whispered, "I didn't come here by accident." If you're feeling the emotions building already, make sure to subscribe, like, and drop a comment below. Your support helps bring more stories like this to life. The storm rolled in fast, slamming rain against the glass as Ethan burst into the music room. Liam had climbed onto the piano bench and was pounding at the keys with frantic hands. Rosa stood close, not touching him, just breathing with him in steady counts. "Step away from my son," Ethan snapped. Liam startled. His fists flew to his ears. Rosa didn't move. "He's not scared of the storm," she said softly, eyes on the boy. "He's scared of you fighting the storm for him." Ethan froze, jaw tight. "What does that even mean?" "Watch." Rosa turned to the piano and played 3 slow notes, low, steady, like a heartbeat. Liam's shoulders eased. She played 3 more. The rain thrashed harder, but Liam's breathing matched her pace. His fingers drifted to the keys. He pressed 1, then 2, echoing her rhythm. Ethan swallowed. "How did you?" "I listened," she said. He wanted to say thank you, but the word felt like a surrender he didn't know how to make. "Don't overstep again," he said instead. "Harris." Mr. Harris appeared in the doorway. Ethan didn't look at him. From now on, Rosa cleans the east wing only. No contact with Liam unless supervised.
Rosa nodded.
"Understood, sir." She met Liam's eyes and smiled. The boy pressed a single key in reply, a quiet goodnight. After they left, Ethan stood alone in the music room, the storm clawing at the windows. He sat at the piano and pressed the same key his son had touched. The note hung in the air, aching and pure. He whispered into the emptiness. "What am I doing wrong, Lila?" No answer, just rain. The next morning, staff gossip crackled through the service hall like electricity. "She's putting spells on the child," the housekeeper muttered. "Or she's after the boss," another scoffed. "Women like that see a rich man and smell blood." Rosa kept her eyes down and wiped the counters, but Mr. Harris had heard enough. He dismissed the whispers with a stern glare. "This house will show dignity or it will show the street. Choose wisely." The chatter died. At lunch, Liam refused food, tipping his plate away with a stubborn hand. Ethan clenched his jaw. "Eat." The boy looked at him, small and unflinching, then pushed the plate farther. Ethan's temper flared. "Harris, replace the N." Rosa stepped into the doorway holding a folded napkin and a small jar. "Sir, may I?" She didn't wait for permission. She set the jar on the table, opened it, and a scent of tomato and basil filled the air. "This is from the garden," she told Liam, dipping a corner of bread and holding it near him. "If you taste and dislike, I won't ask again. Your choice." Liam stared at the bread like it was a trap. He glanced at Ethan, stone-faced, distant, then at Rosa, calm, waiting. He took the tiniest bite, then another. The boy chewed, thoughtful. Slowly, he pulled the plate back toward himself. Ethan exhaled a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. He looked at Rosa. "Thank you." She nodded once and left as quietly as she'd come. That evening, Ethan called his head of security, Daniel Price, to the study. "I want a background check," he said, "on the new maid." Price lifted a brow.
Rosa Alvarez?
"Problem. She's helping," Ethan said almost begrudgingly. "Too well." He stared at the decanter, its amber reflection wavering. "Find out how and why." Price smiled without warmth. I'll be discreet. He wasn't. Within a day, Rosa noticed shadows where there shouldn't be any. Men pausing a beat longer when she entered a room, a dark sedan idling by the service gate. She ignored it and kept working. But that night, she took out the old photograph again, her fingers brushing the faded smile. I'm close, she whispered. I won't fail him again. The breakthrough arrived without fanfare. Rosa was polishing the framed photos in the upstairs corridor when a tiny voice drifted from around the corner, raw as a scraped knee. Stop. The cloth fell from her hand. She turned slowly. Liam stood there, eyes wide, lips parted, astonishment and terror battling on his face. His voice had been a whisper, barely sound, but it was sound. Rosa lowered to her knees, both palms open. I heard you, she breathed. I won't move. I promise. He took one step closer, then another, as if approaching a wild animal. Tears slicked his lashes. He shook his head, frustrated, and pressed his fist to his mouth. It's okay, she said. You already did it. Footsteps thundered. Ethan appeared at the end of the hall, eyes scanning, heart pounding. What happened? Rosa didn't look away from Liam. He spoke, she said softly. He asked me to stop. Ethan's breath caught. He crouched, careful not to crowd. Buddy, he whispered, voice cracking. You did it. Liam's chest rose and fell in sharp gulps. He reached out, not for his father, but for Rosa's sleeve. She didn't move. He leaned into her shoulder just enough to borrow her steadiness. Ethan swallowed the hurt and let gratitude win. Thank you, he said. And this time the words came clean. If this moment touched you, pause for a second, tap like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments what line gave you chills. It helps this story reach more people who need it. Rosa didn't celebrate. She looked at Liam and saw a puzzle piece turning, a lock shifting. That night she hummed the lullaby in the laundry room, then stopped, startled by her own memory. Another voice overlapped in her mind. A soft alto, the way Lila Cole had sung in the kitchen while stirring soup. Rosa had been there, 18 and invisible, a part-time helper hired for a single evening when the regular maid's mother fell ill. She had washed dishes while music curled through the room, while a child giggled in a high chair, while a kiss pressed to a man's cheek said a life was whole. And then came the sirens, the fire, the screaming metal. She'd been behind them on the road when the car swerved. She had broken her nails tearing at the back door to reach the crying child. Smoke clawing her lungs. A woman's hands slick with blood. A lullaby stuck like a prayer. She saved the boy. She could not save the mother. Back in the present, Rosa pressed her palms to her eyes. I am not your miracle, she whispered to the empty room. I'm just the witness who survived. 2 days later, Price returned with a thin folder and a thicker smirk. Found a few curiosities. Ethan scanned the report. No criminal record. Address changes, yes. A hospital visit 7 years ago for smoke inhalation. Rosa had been treated and released the same night as Lila's accident. His pulse kicked. Why didn't you lead with this? Price shrugged. Coincidence. Nothing about that night is coincidence. Ethan's voice went rough. Bring me the ER records. That requires incentives. Send the bill to me. Ethan looked up. And Price? You breathe a word of this to anyone, you're done. Price tapped 2 fingers to his temple in mock salute and left. Ethan found Rosa in the conservatory, trimming browning leaves from a lemon tree. Sunlight painted her profile in gentle edges. You were in the hospital the night my wife died, he said without preface. Her hand stilled. She didn't look surprised, only tired. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't come here to reopen your grief, she said. I came here because I heard a boy had stopped singing. What are you to him? Ethan's voice dropped, a father's fear scraping the words bare. Who are you to my son? Rosa finally met his eyes. The one who pulled him from the car when the flames kissed the seats, she said, quiet as a confession. The one who failed to pull her. Silence boomed. Lemon leaves trembled. Ethan's breath trembled with them. Say that again. I was behind you on the highway, she said, staring through him into a wreck only she could still see. I saw the world fold. I was there when he screamed. I dragged him out by his coat. I tried the front door. It wouldn't. She swallowed, shook her head. I didn't sleep for a year because I heard that song every time I closed my eyes. Ethan staggered back like the words had weight. Rage flared and died in a single breath, leaving something raw. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want your gratitude, she said. Or your blame. I just wanted to give him the one thing I couldn't give her. A voice that sings without fear. Ethan pressed his knuckles to his mouth. He turned away, then back, then away again, a man at war with 1,000 unfinished sentences. I don't know what to do with this, he admitted. You don't have to do anything. She stepped back, hands loose at her sides. Just let him be a boy who can trust the sound of a song. They were interrupted by a sharp cough in the doorway. Mr. Harris stood there, face pinched. Sir, Mr. Price is at the gate with a gentleman from the hospital legal department.
Urgent.
Now? Ethan snapped. Harris lowered his voice. And there's another thing, sir. Some of the staff word has spread. They're saying Ms. Alvarez is... He hesitated. That she's manipulating the boy for attention. Rosa flushed but held his gaze. Let them talk. Ethan straightened. No, he said. Let me talk. He strode into the hall and rang the service bell. A single ruthless chime. Staff filed in, eyes down. Listen carefully, Ethan said, voice cool as steel. Anyone who undermines Ms. Alvarez undermines my son's recovery. You will treat her with respect. If you cannot, you will pack your things before sunset. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The housekeeper's mouth flattened. The gardener nodded once. The cook smiled, small and relieved. Rosa stared at the floor so no one would see her eyes. When the hall emptied, Ethan turned back to her. Stay, he said softer. Please. She nodded, but something dark flickered at the edge of the moment. A shadow that wasn't the storm or the past. Price appeared with a man in a suit and a slick smile. Mr. Cole, the lawyer said. About those records. There are protocols. And, there are liabilities when old files surface. Ethan's eyes chilled. Which means, Price cut in smoothly, the public narrative of the accident, pure driver error, might not hold if certain maintenance reports on the vehicle come to light. Reporters love a billionaire scandal. Rosa felt the floor tilt. Ethan's hands curled into fists. Are you blackmailing me in my own house? Of course not, the lawyer said lightly. We're discussing risk. And retainer fees. Ethan stepped forward, a predator's calm settling over his shoulders. Leave, he said. Both of you. Now. Price didn't move. He looked past Ethan at Rosa. Funny how you always show up where fire licks at rich men, he said, voice silky. Hero today, headline tomorrow. Rosa lifted her chin. I didn't come for your approval. Good, Price said. You won't get it. Ethan's voice was quiet and final. You're done, Daniel. Careful, Price murmured. You'll need me when this explodes. Get out. They left. The room breathed again. Ethan pinched the bridge of his nose. This is going to get uglier before it gets better.
Rosa nodded.
Then we hold the boy steady. He looked at her like a man finding the edge of a map and daring to step beyond. Help me do that. She didn't hesitate. Yes. If you're still with this story, you're part of the reason we can tell it right. Tap subscribe, like, and tell us in the comments. Should Ethan confront the past publicly or protect his son at all costs? That night, as thunder retreated into a tired mutter, Rosa passed the music room and saw Liam curled on the bench, the music box open, the lullaby ghosting the air. She sat on the floor, back against the piano, close enough for him to feel her there. After a long while, he slid down beside her. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. He tapped 3 soft notes on the wooden floor with his finger low, steady. Like a heartbeat they were now learning to share. The following morning broke calm, almost suspiciously so. No storm, no shouting, just the whisper of wind through the open curtains. Rosa awoke early, her heart unsettled. The mansion felt different, too still, too watchful. Downstairs, the staff murmured in cautious tones. Word had spread. Mr. Price was gone, and the media had caught scent of something. An anonymous tip about a billionaire hiding a tragic past. Ethan didn't come down for breakfast. Instead, he stayed in his office, pacing before a wall of news headlines on his computer. His phone buzzed nonstop. Investors, journalists, board members. His company's name trended online. Coltech CEO accused of cover-up in wife's fatal crash. Rosa entered quietly with a tray of coffee, stopping when she saw the exhaustion in his eyes. "You haven't slept," she said softly. He looked up, voice raw. "I don't have time to." "Then make time. You can't fight a storm if you can't even stand in the rain." Ethan let out a low breath, half a laugh, half despair. "You talk like my wife did." "I talk like someone who's seen what grief does when you don't face it," Rosa replied. "What matters now is your son, not your reputation." He met her eyes, silence thick between them. "The boy's all I have left." "Then protect him by being honest," she said. "Even if it costs you everything else." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You sound like you think I'm guilty." "I think you're hurting," Rosa said quietly. "And pain makes good men hide." Liam appeared at the door, holding his small music box. His face was pale. "Papa." The word was broken but real. Ethan froze, his world halting. It had been years since he heard that voice call him anything. He turned slowly. "Liam." The boy swallowed. "Papa, sad." Rosa's hand flew to her mouth. Ethan crossed the room and dropped to his knees, pulling his son into his arms. Tears, fierce and disbelieving, filled his eyes. "You spoke, buddy. You spoke." Liam looked at him and pressed his music box against Ethan's chest. The lullaby began to play. Ethan held him tighter, shaking. Rosa turned away, tears falling silently. Outside, cameras flashed beyond the mansion gates. By evening, the chaos had reached the doorstep. News vans parked on the long drive, reporters shouting questions as the butler and security tried to keep them away. "Mr. Cole, did you hide evidence from the police? Is it true your car was under recall the week of the crash? Who is the woman living with you now?" Rosa stood by an upstairs window watching the crowd. Fear twisted in her stomach. She'd seen mobs before, how quickly sympathy could turn to blame. When she went to the study, Ethan sat with a half-empty glass of whiskey, eyes hollow. "They won't stop," he said. "If the truth comes out that the brakes failed because of my company's negligence, you'll lose everything," Rosa finished gently. "Except him," Ethan said, glancing toward the hallway. "If I keep him out of it." "But Price has leverage," Rosa warned. "He knows your weakness, Liam." Ethan rubbed his temples. "Then maybe it's time I stop hiding." Rosa hesitated. "You'd face the press?" He looked up, determination flickering beneath the fatigue. "If I don't tell the truth myself, someone else will twist it. I owe Lila and Liam better than lies." She stepped closer. "Then let me stand with you." He studied her face for a long moment. "Why? You don't owe me anything." "Because I owe her," Rosa said simply. "She trusted me with that song." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" Rosa swallowed. "Before the accident, your wife used to visit the orphanage I grew up in. Every week, she'd come play piano for the kids. She taught me that lullaby. Said it was her way of keeping hope alive when everything else went quiet." Ethan blinked, stunned. "Lila never told me that." "She didn't need to," Rosa whispered. "She lived it. That's why I came here, Mr. Cole. Not by accident, by purpose. I thought maybe I could give that song back to the one person who lost it most." Emotion struck him like a wave. He reached for her hand but stopped himself, uncertain if gratitude could bridge that kind of pain. Later that night, a crash shattered the quiet once again. The sound came from the rear gate. Security lights flared, and Ethan ran to the window. The sedan that had followed Rosa before was back, headlights off. "Stay here," Ethan barked, but Rosa followed anyway. Outside, two men stepped out, Price and the slick lawyer. "Nice night for truth, isn't it?" Price called. "You going to tell them, or should I?" Ethan's fists clenched. "Leave before I make you." Price smirked. "Come on, Ethan. Tell the cameras how you cut costs on brake systems to save your bonus. Or maybe I'll do it for you." Ethan's jaw hardened. "You won't touch my son." "Your son?" Price sneered. "Cute kid. Shame if someone mentioned his little miracle recovery came from a maid with a hidden agenda. Imagine the headlines." Rosa stepped forward. "Enough, Daniel." He turned. "Ah, the savior herself. I saved your boss's boy, not his fortune," she said. "If you think threatening a child gets you power, you're already smaller than the dust on his shoes." Price's smirk faltered. "You think you scare me?" "No," Rosa said, stepping closer until her voice was steady and low. "But you scare yourself. Because deep down, you know the truth always outlasts greed." Police sirens wailed in the distance. Price cursed and backed toward his car. "This isn't over," he shouted. Ethan watched the headlights vanish down the drive, chest heaving. He turned to Rosa. "You didn't have to face him." "Yes, I did," she said quietly. "That boy deserves a world without monsters in his shadows." Ethan looked at her, all replacing anger. "How do you stay so calm through all this?" She smiled faintly. "I stopped being afraid of fire a long time ago." He almost said something. Something about how her courage made him feel alive again. But before he could, Liam appeared at the window above, pressing his hand against the glass. The lullaby began faintly from the music box. Ethan smiled up at him. "Go to bed, champ. It's over." Rosa looked at Ethan and said softly, "No, it's beginning." The next day, Ethan stood before a sea of reporters outside the mansion gates. Cameras clicked like thunder. His hands didn't shake. "I have nothing to hide," he said into the microphones. "Years ago, I made a decision that cost me the woman I loved. My company ignored warnings about a faulty brake system. I buried the truth out of shame. I was wrong." Questions erupted, flashes blinding, but Ethan didn't flinch. "A woman in this house reminded me what honesty costs, and what it saves. Her name is Rosa Alvarez. She saved my son's life twice, and now I'll spend mine honoring both of them." Inside, Rosa watched from the window, tears streaking her cheeks. Liam tugged her sleeve. "Papa brave," he whispered. She smiled. "Yes, he is, and so are you." Liam pointed at her. "You sing now." She laughed softly. "All right." She began the lullaby, her voice trembling at first, then steady, filling the house with warmth that had been missing for years. Down at the gate, as reporters shouted more questions, Ethan heard the faint tune drifting from the open door behind him. The same song his wife used to hum. He turned, smiling for the first time in a long time. If this part moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. It helps more people discover stories that remind them of hope and second chances. Ethan's confession spread across the internet before sunset. By midnight, news anchors debated his motives, redemption or damage control. Public sympathy tilted in his favor. Sincerity has a strange power when spoken without defense. But inside the mansion, no one talked about headlines. They talked about peace. That night, for the first time in years, Ethan joined Liam for dinner. No tablet, no business calls, no half-eaten meals. Just 3 plates, candlelight, and a quiet hum that felt almost like family. Liam held the bread with both hands. "Papa, like song?" His words stumbled, but they were his. Ethan's throat closed. "I love that song, buddy." Rosa smiled. "He practiced all afternoon. He wanted to surprise you." Ethan laughed softly, wiping his eyes. "You already have, both of you." The moment was simple, perfect, and fragile. Later, after Liam slept, Ethan found Rosa on the balcony overlooking the garden. She stood under the moonlight, her hair loose, her voice low as she sang the lullaby once more. The same notes, but gentler now. Not a song of mourning, but of release. Ethan leaned against the doorway, letting it wash over him. "When you sing that, he said. It feels like she's here again. Rosa turned. Maybe she never left. They stood in silence, two people bound by loss and the strange grace of survival. I don't know how to thank you, Ethan said. Then don't, Rosa replied. Just live in a way that makes her proud. He took a step closer. You've given me more than a second chance. You gave me my son. And he gave you your heart back, she said. Don't lose it again. Ethan's hand brushed hers. Tentative, uncertain. What about you, Rosa? What do you want now? She smiled faintly. To stay if I'm welcome. Not as the maid, as part of the story. You already are, he said. Weeks passed. The scandal quieted. Investors returned, and Coltech pledged millions to road safety research. The mansion filled with new sounds. Piano notes, laughter, morning chatter. Even Mr. Harris admitted the house felt lighter. One Sunday morning, Ethan found Rosa and Liam in the garden, planting lemon saplings near the old tree line. The boy sang softly under his breath while patting soil over the roots. Good job, champ, Ethan said, kneeling beside him. What's this one's name? Liam grinned. Mama Tree. Rosa's eyes shimmered. Why that name? 'Cause Mama sings in leaves, he said simply. Ethan met Rosa's gaze and saw everything he'd been missing. Forgiveness not as a gift, but as a choice repeated every day. That evening, Ethan sat alone at the piano. He hadn't played since Lila's funeral. His hands hovered, unsure. Rosa appeared in the doorway. Go on, she urged. She'd want you to. He pressed the first note, hesitant. Rosa joined, her voice weaving through the melody. The lullaby shifted, still hers, but also new. Liam tiptoed down the stairs, sleepy-eyed, and climbed onto the bench between them. Together they played, 3 lives braided into one fragile song. When the final note faded, silence settled not like grief, but peace. Ethan whispered, I used to think silence was punishment. Now I think it's space. The space where music waits to be found. Rosa smiled. That's what she taught me too. Months later, a charity gala filled the ballroom of the Cole Foundation. Cameras flashed, champagne sparkled, but the night's center wasn't wealth. It was a 7-year-old boy walking on stage clutching a small microphone. Ethan watched from the table, breath shallow. Rosa stood beside him, hands clasped. Liam took a deep breath. The crowd hushed. He pressed the button on his music box. The familiar lullaby began. Then, in a clear, trembling voice, he sang the first verse. The room dissolved into tears. Ethan's face crumpled. Rosa covered her mouth, shaking. The song filled the hall, echoing against glass chandeliers and hearts that hadn't broken in years. When Liam finished, he whispered into the mic, This for Mama and for Miss Rosa. Applause thundered. Ethan rose to his feet, pride and sorrow battling in his chest. He looked at Rosa, the woman who had walked into his home with nothing and left him with everything. After the gala, Ethan found her backstage. She was wiping her eyes, laughing. He didn't even tell me he'd sing. He gets that from his mother, Ethan said, smiling. And from you, she replied. He took her hands. You saved us. Twice. She shook her head.
No.
Love did. Ethan stepped closer. Then maybe we should stop running from it. Rosa looked up at him, uncertain, hopeful. You mean? He smiled, gentle but sure. Stay. Not as help. Not as hero. As family. Her tears spilled freely now. I thought you'd never ask. Weeks later, the Cole mansion was no longer silent. Liam's laughter echoed down the halls. Rosa's singing filled the mornings, and Ethan's piano played again. One afternoon, Rosa found Liam drawing in the study. He held up a sketch, a stick figure family under a giant lemon tree. 3 people. 1 son. Is that us? She asked. Liam nodded proudly. Papa, Mama, me. Her throat tightened. She kissed his forehead. It's perfect. Ethan appeared behind them, wrapping his arms around both. It is. Outside, the new lemon tree swayed in the wind. A single blossom drifted down and landed on the windowsill, small, white, and alive. Rosa looked at it and whispered, "She'd be proud." Ethan kissed her temple. "She'd be thankful." And somewhere beyond the sound of laughter and piano keys, the old lullaby hummed again. Not from a music box this time, but from life itself. If the story touched your heart, please subscribe, like, and share. Tell us in the comments. What part made you tear up the most? The song, the confession, or the ending? Your support keeps these stories alive and helps us bring more moments of hope and healing to you every week.